Hey everybody, this is Mandolin Reese, the Street Angel, and I am here with my first episode of season 4 of the Street Angel show, the talk show. So this is actually something I wanted to manifest. I had it on my vision board that I really wanted to have my own show again. I really enjoyed, having 3 seasons of my Hollywood talk show. And even though there's all this pandemic going on and everybody's stuck at home a lot, it's like I wanted to do this. I needed to get out there and be a light worker again. And this is a way to do it. So here I am, and I just wanted to express myself. So, who am I? I am the Street Angel. I have been running around the whole country, different cities and states and neighborhoods and grocery stores, banks, the beach, red carpet Hollywood events, promoting kindness and universal positive humanitarian messages. I shall give you an example. So, one of my newer ones is spread kindness, and so I hope you can see that. And we've got serve others with care. I actually ran around with that one around the police when they were, doing the protesting situation. So that's me. I've also been able to successfully navigate all of the airports in America, as well as Cabo and Jamaica or something like that. So yeah, I've definitely gone beyond the United States. So I'm a worldwide street angel. And tonight I want to introduce that I'm in cohorts with the Love Coach Academy. Thank you to the founder, Scott Catamas, who will be my first guest today. So what Scott and I are going to do is kind of take turns interviewing each other because, well, he's epic and he wants to interview me as well because he thinks my Street Angel mission thingy is cool. And I wanted to say that it is showtime. So yes, everybody buckle up. This show, the purpose that I wanted to manifest of this show is to spread light, love, positivity throughout whoever manages to see this show when they see it. The time is right for them. Add some sparkle to their life. And also just help promote the Love Coach Academy and love coaching because it's so important for couples. And also spread my mission, but it's also really to help people with their love and relationship sector of their life. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring Scott Catamas in, and we're going to go with it. Wait, I think I need to do one more thing. I wanted to thank a special sponsor, Adam Simon. He has been one of my main people who has supported my mission over these years. One of the only people that has helped do some sponsorship things to keep me going and help with different products and things to keep the show starting. And it's hard to explain, but I just want to thank the sponsor, Adam Simon, who's also a very dear longtime friend of mine. So let's go ahead and get started with the guest. So I'm going to bring in Scott Catamas. Everybody, cheer.
Hey,
Hello.
welcome everybody. Greetings, greetings.
Hi, how are you
Congratulations, Mandy. I'm really proud of you. I'm turning my light on here. There we go. Let me open this up a little bit. We'll get a better light that way.
Were you able to see my background? I was all excited about it.
Your background is amazing, but once I came on, I'm taking up half the stage already.
Sorry.
But we were able to see it when I wasn't there. So if you boot me out again, we'll be able to see you.
Well, I picked this one for my Hollywood inspiration. I, in case you don't know who I am, I mean, a lot of people know my story, but a lot might not. I got started in Los Angeles, Hollywood, doing this mission. And so I ran around there for 4.5 years doing crashing red carpet events all over the place and ended up meeting celebrities, not even meaning to half the time. And it's just so I had this Hollywood story and background, but it was never intentional. I didn't go to Hollywood to get famous. It just fell in this this calling fell in my lap. But I don't want to jump the gun because Scott wanted to ask me about that specifically. But let me just say, Scott is the founder of Love Coach Academy. And I actually met him, I think, 2018, when I was living near Portland, Oregon. I lived there all that year. And I went to this workshop, and he was there and teaching some stuff. And so we just connected on Facebook. And Scott has helped to coach me and my partner. So I want to say love coaching is a really great thing to have in your life. If you have a relationship, it's really important to have a coach or a counselor of some kind, whatever would work for you. But what do you want to say about that, Scott?
Well, I kind of describe the scene. So I'm at this workshop, and it is interesting. It was in a converted, I think it was a women's college that had been converted into a workshop scene. So, you know how it is, you're a teacher, you get there, you're kind of scoping it out. I'd never taught at this particular organization before. I'd never been to this particular place. So you're kind of looking around, trying to figure out, where do you register? Where's my class? What, all that. And, there's all these people walking around. And then all of a sudden, I see this beautiful woman with angel wings on, and like signs on both sides of her saying, please be kind, please be courteous, with angel wings. And it would be kind of like if you were in New York City and everybody was in suits, you're in Wall Street, and then somebody naked came by. I mean, the contrast between the way she looked and everybody else that was kind of in their normal trip, it was like, wow, who's that?
Strangely, that's kind of why it worked in Hollywood too, because I was the only one. I actually met a couple of Los Angeles natives, people who grew up in LA, and they saw me and they're like, we've never seen anybody do what you're doing. And I was like, well,
it's true.
It wasn't my idea. It was God's idea. It was like a divine calling that smacked me in the head like a sledgehammer when I moved to LA. And I moved there to follow a guy that I was dating. And I didn't go there to be an actress or a model or for fame. It just like I got this calling and I started following it. And then it led me to all these magic carpet ride places. It was pretty cool.
Well, so to just complete the story for a moment, and then I want to talk about something you just said that's actually really beautiful. So anyway, this was back when I was still teaching with Emily. We were teaching the workshop together. And Emily noticed her too. I was like, wow, who's that? She's pretty cool. So then we're, in our workshop getting ready to teach. And she comes in. It's like the street angel came into our workshop. I was like, oh, cool. And we got to talking, and she attended the workshop, and we spoke afterwards. And, it's one of those soul connections, just immediately meeting in the love coach vibe, because Mandy is someone, as I've gotten to know her over the last 2 years, who's really dedicated to kindness and to love. And, you said that it wasn't your choice. God hit you with it. But it is your choice every time you put on those wings.
That's true. It's
your choice to do this show again. I interviewed Richard Bach, who's the author of Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Illusions. I don't know if you know that book, but many of our audience would. And when he wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, he wasn't a writer. But there was this seagull who kept landing on where he was living. And literally, he kind of channeled the story from the seagull, wrote it down, sent it to a publisher, and went away for the summer. He flew biplanes and took people on airplane rides in this little biplane. While he's flying his biplane, the book gets published and becomes this huge hit. They eventually even made a movie out of it. And he became very wealthy from this book that he felt that he had channeled. And when I interviewed him many, many years later, he talked about how it took him time to understand that, yes, it was channeled, but it still took his creativity, his trust in God, his trust in this inspiration. I mean, come on, channeling a seagull, right? A bird talk to me. That takes courage to put it out there. It takes courage to put on your angel wings and to go to, the Houston baseball stadium It takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yes,
So
it definitely has
yes,
a lot of courage.
a lot. So
And sometimes I was terrified.
God called on you, Mandy, and you answered the call. And I guess if there's anything I want us to convey is to people watching, when God, life, source, whatever you want to call it, calls upon you, we'll find 100 reasons not to do it. What would my parents think? What would my boyfriend think? Yeah, I'm going to look ridiculous. I'm going to fail. Whatever. We have all those stories. You haven't let those stories stop you, Mandy. And that's why I love you, respect you, and will do whatever I can to support you.
Well, I really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you've done, not just for my life, but for everybody that gets touched by the Love Coach Academy. And I definitely want to hear more about how you started that. I wanted to touch on a few things you mentioned. You're absolutely right. Like, I felt like I downloaded like what I was supposed to do, and I felt like I had this purpose. And so many people in the world probably are like, what is my purpose? What is my mission? And some people get it, some people aren't sure, and maybe it's just not your time yet. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe your purpose is to be a mother. Maybe your purpose is to just do whatever you're doing, a nurse or whatever, who's to know? It just hit me, and I acted on it, and it was terrifying. I wondered, I questioned my sanity at first. I was like, I'm sitting here on a street corner in Los Angeles with wings on. Am I crazy? But it was so powerful, like of a directive, and I had to do it. And literally, it was like breadcrumbs. My first day standing on a street corner, no job, no friends, no network, and my boyfriend and I had broken up. I was like completely alone. So it's like I was just, all I had to go on was this calling that I was doing, this angel thing. And so I would meet people, and they would come up and talk to me, or they'd give me their card or their number, or they would tell me about an event. And I would take that breadcrumb and I would do that. And I would contact that person. I would go to that event, and it would lead to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And some breadcrumbs didn't manifest until years later.
Right.
Like one lady I met in the very beginning of my project contacted me like 2 years later and invited me to this epic festival where she housed me for free at a mansion, and then they paraded me through the town of, what was it, Malibu or something, for Ojai. They paraded me on a sleigh thing through Ojai for their July 4th festival and my angel stuff. And I was like, how did this happen? It was incredible, a magic carpet ride, but it was because I was acting on it. So, I mean,
Beautiful.
and so I just have to turn it on to you for a second. How on earth did you become a love coach? Because you were a filmmaker. You created documentaries and shows, and how on earth did you become a love coach?
Well, I had a really good career as a producer, writer, director, and like you said, I produced a lot of television. I made a movie. I did documentaries. I had a good career. I was primarily in Los Angeles, where I was a very small fish in a very big ocean. But I was a happy little fish swimming around doing educational television and winning my Emmy Awards and working with good people. And in 2001, I was hired. I had a production company, and I was hired by the Center for Nonviolent Communication to do a series of videos and a TV show with Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication. Now, at this point, I was in my early 40s, and producing, it's a lot of work, and it's kind of a young man's game to some degree. And I was, by this time, in love with Suchi, my wife, and she lived up in the Bay Area, so I was traveling back and forth between LA and the Bay Area, and kind of eyeing the possibility of a career change anyway. And anyway, I got hired to do the show with Marshall, and it was really kind of like, God knocked on your door and told you got the download to be a street angel. Well, God arranged for Marshall to hire me to travel and watch what he does. I basically got paid to be introduced to what became my career.
Wow.
Because I traveled with Marshall, and Marshall was pretty famous. And we traveled together for 3 weeks. We started in Southern California and traveled together all the way up to the Canadian border, where he was on a tour and he was teaching classes and workshops and doing all sorts of different things. And I'm there filming it all, to make these videos. And I fell in love with his work, absolutely fell in love with it. And I realized Marshall taught me many things, one of which was if we really want to change the world, change our relationships. And it's so pertinent right now because the world is just going through this incredible thing. And everybody's trying to make sense of it and figure it out. And like you said, some people just need to stay at home and get tracked. Some people are being really called. I believe that as wonderful as activism is and all that, let's change our relationships first. And that's what Marshall taught me. It really, the famous Gandhi line, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, we can preach love, but if we don't have love for our mother, our father, our children, our neighbors, right? So I really was touched by that vision and then by the specific tools that he taught, how to change our relationships, how to have more compassion. And that was 2001, so it's almost 20 years. And on the one hand, a lot of people say I'm the most compassionate man they know, and I have some good skill there. But it's like a never-ending onion. I mean, every day I'm learning more about my judgments, learning more about how things that I think are innocent are not so innocent. I think a lot of that's come up for us lately around racism. As a privileged white man, learning some of the things that I take for granted, expressions of speech that actually have racist overtones that I never realized. So I'm still learning. I'll give you an example. How often do we say the master bedroom? Well, the master bedroom actually goes all the way back to the days of mansions. And the master, right, exactly, slave era. And the master was the master who had the slaves. And that's what the slaves called him. They called him master,
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that until a couple of weeks ago. I read this wonderful article about common words that we use that actually originated in either prejudice or slavery. So I'm still learning. I did a post that I thought was relatively neutral, and oh my God, I was shocked by how many comments came in. A lot of them angry and hurt and reevaluating. Wow, what did I say? What was it that triggered people? So anyway, back to becoming a love coach. That's when I started, making if you want to learn something, make a documentary about it. And I made several documentaries about him and his work. So I started really learning it. And then I started teaching it. And it really helped my wife. My wife and I weren't married yet, Suchi. And there was like this deep bond, but we fought a lot because we were so different. And these tools helped us to get it together. And we never could have lived together, and we certainly never could have been married, and we never could have been happy if we didn't use these tools. But they did teach us. We did get married. We were happy. Sadly, she passed away 8 years ago. But so when she died, I 6 months later started the Love Coach Academy as a dedication to her and what we learned to help as many couples as possible, like you and Israel, who are a beautiful couple, one of my favorite couples, to help couples have these tools, because without them we do fight, and the differences get in the way of the real love that's there. So
right.
Yeah, that's the story.
So I want to share a cool story. There was a time where my beloved and I went to Hawaii, and it was because Scott was going to be one of the speakers at a couples kind of festival or a retreat.
Couples retreat.
And so we went to dinner out together, the three of us, me and Israel and Scott. And we're sitting there, and this older, almost elderly couple comes up to our table unprovoked, out of nowhere. I guess because they saw my angel wings and poster, and they asked about it. And they're like, "Oh, we've been married 35 years and
50. And they've been married for 50.
Oh, 50 wow, you
years.
have a better memory. So married 50 years. And I was like, okay, well, what is something you'd like to share about how to keep that kind of marriage or love going? And they're like, you have to have a good counselor. And I'm like, well, we're sitting here with our love coach, so I guess we're on a good start. But I wanted to give Scott a little trophy.
Yay! I got my Oscar finally.
Yeah, for being an awesome love coach, and he's helped a lot of people. And I do recommend if you know somebody or need a love coach, to go to thelovecoachacademy.com and either hire Scott or hire somebody.
Hire Mandy, hire Radiance, hire Adrian. Because one of the things I'm proudest of, I have more clients than I can manage, but we've got all these beautiful love coaches like Mandolin, like Radiance, like Adrian. I'm mentioning them because they're watching. Debbie Garcia, who have learned my tools and also have their own skills that they bring. Have their own. Debbie Garcia is the goddess of gratitude. Adrian has a tremendous background in Vipassana and meditation. Mandy has this incredible humane compassion about how important it is to be kind. That may sound kind of mundane, but, I thought of you yesterday. Some of you may know that I have a show that I do that's really popular. It's called Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe. And it is an online variety show that draws tens of thousands of people. It's a big hit. And last night's show was all about people who have had experiences with extraterrestrials, because it was pretty far out there. But they're all, I handpicked the people, and they're all very valid, reasonable, intelligent people. And this one fellow, who's like the main guy that the show kind of featured the most, has been in direct communication with an ET guide since 2012. And the ET guide's number one request for humanity is to be kind to each other. That was it. It's like, yeah. And it was like, I thought, well, now that's interesting. Tomorrow night is the kickoff of the Street Angel show. You all go back. You can find it on my Facebook page, Saturday Night Live for the Global Peace Tribe, and watch what Mark Sims says when he's talking about his guide Teshbar, humankind. And he even says it may sound simple, it may sound mundane, but that's what the ETs are asking us, to just be kind to each other.
That's so epic. Like, I didn't know that was the main message, because that's why my main directive has been kindness. Like, my main message with my posters, even though they've all been different over the years, I try to make them positive, universal, humanitarian in nature, colorful to draw the eye, and try to get to people's inner child. Because if you strip off human skin, we're all the same underneath, right? I mean, we might be different heights or blood types, but we're human beings, and our traits are what set us apart. Like, what amount of money we have, our religion, where we live, our language, even our religion, like just so many things that divide people. But kindness is something that can be understood no matter what your language is. Happiness, joy, love, these are universal things. Forgiveness, patience. And that's why it's so important, and that my posters have embraced universal things. I'm sure there could be one person out there who would disagree, but that's just the way it is. But, for the most part, I think most people, I get probably 99.9% positive responses. And that's why I believe I've been able to get through all of the airports in America for 8 years. So my Angel Project mission is almost 8 years old. Next month, August 17th is my 8-year anniversary. And and while we're on that topic of kindness, Scott, I want you to share that story about the research of life after death.
Sure.
Showed the purpose of life, because that's so important for everyone to hear.
Well, this is a very special night because it's the launch of the Street Angel show online. She previously had this as a television show she did in Hollywood. So this is season 4, but now it's digital, because that's what we do now. We do it all online. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give those people who tune in and watch. And I want to acknowledge that most of the people watching this, you're watching the video replay. The vast majority of people who watch the videos that I do, at least, are watching the video replay. And I'm going to be posting this and promoting this a lot. So for those of you with us live, thank you. And give us some thoughts, comments, share it out. And for those of you watching the video replay, hey, thank you. So here's the gift for all of you, whether it's live now or replay. I am going to tell you, truly, sincerely, the meaning of life. Who wants to know the meaning of life? I see you raising your hand. Oh, I saw that person over there going, oh yeah, right, meaning of life. But I'm serious. I'm really going to tell it to you. I believe it with all my heart. So as Mandy mentioned, for many years, a long time, 20 years, I made my living as a writer, director, producer in Hollywood. And interestingly, we both have the Hollywood connection, Mandy.
I know, right?
So during that time, I did several television shows and documentaries about near-death experiences. And back then, the world's foremost authority on near-death experiences, you can read all about him, you can Google him, find him, was Dr. Kenneth Ring, like on your finger. He was a clinical psychologist who was very well funded and spent 10 years traveling the world doing research and comparative analysis on people who had had a legitimate near-death experience. He would only take a case if it was somebody who had been dead for at least 20 minutes. They had to have been declared dead by a doctor or a police officer. They had to have some partial memory of what took place while they were out there. And most of all, they had to be willing to be hypnotized by a professional hypnotist while Dr. Ring, or translator, because he worked with people from multiple races and cultures and languages, asked questions to probe the subconscious. So these are very powerful, strong cases. 300 cases over 10 years. Black, brown, yellow, white, Christian, Jew, atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, children, adults, all imaginable people would have these experiences. Now, as he was doing all of his research, he started as an atheistic scientist. And by the time I met him, he had become quite spiritual based on what he had learned. People's experiences were very different. They varied. Some people saw the big golden light. Some people hovered over the bed. Some people were met by religious figures that they believed in, Jesus or Mary or Buddha, or saints that they believed in. A lot of people saw deceased relatives. But the most incredible thing that he hadn't even been looking for when he started was the meaning of life. Every single person had some sort of an experience of Jesus or the great light or dead Uncle Fred showing them the meaning of their life. And guess what? It was always a variation on the same theme. You probably are guessing by right about now. The meaning of life is we're here to learn to love, starting with ourselves. We're here to learn to love, starting with ourselves. Now, each of these 300 people had their own unique pathway to learning about love. One person, I'm here to learn to love myself even though I lost my legs in the car accident. I'm here to learn to love myself even though my father beat me, or my wife left me, or I'm an alcoholic, or my business failed, or whatever it is.
Or LGBTQ.
All right, family that disowned me because I always the initials wrong. LGBTQ2, BT, yeah. I've got to memorize it.
I think I had it right.
You did, and I didn't.
But it goes on and on and on. I would like to add to that, if you're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
So I had a similar answer of that from God. One time I was feeling pretty crappy about life, and I got a towel and I went out into this field. When it was beautiful, and it was a really pretty expansive field of grass, and it had been mowed, so it was kind of short, and it was nice. So I laid my towel out in the middle of this field, and I was just meditating and trying to connect with God and spirit and source, whatever you'd like to label it. And I asked, like, God, I was like, well, why am I going through all of this stuff? And the immediate answer that I received from God or Spirit was, so that you can learn to love as I love.
Mm.
And that was such a profound answer. 'Cause, like, God loves us unconditionally, sees everything, knows everything. Like, we can't really comprehend with our human mind or brain all of humanity or the reasons for things, why things happen, how did creation happen, why are we here? We don't really know. We can only guess. And all the literature out there is a bunch of guessing. um, people can download different things, but that was just my experience, and I just wanted to share it because it was similar to that. That
Very
our
similar.
purpose is to learn to love as God loves.
One thing I just want to add, which is for each of you watching and listening, what is your challenge in terms of loving, starting with yourself? What is your disillusionment or your wounding or your pain that stops you from loving yourself fully? And I want to just acknowledge that self-love is not selfish. Narcissism, and even being egocentric, usually actually comes from insecurity and a lack of self-love. When we love ourselves well, we actually want to contribute to the well-being of others. And so genuine self-love is actually, we then fill our cup, and our cup overfloweth, and then we have more to give.
Yeah, that's really
And
beautiful.
I'm sure you can relate to that. If you're going through a time when you're feeling really, really down, it takes a lot of extra oomph to put those wings on, doesn't it?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I left Hollywood twice because the, I was pouring so hard into my mission and giving to the point where I got depleted to burnout twice. Uh, so the first time was 2014. I left Hollywood and went back to Texas. I only stayed for a year, and I was like, "What am I doing here? I don't feel like I fit in here anymore." I missed LA. I moved back to LA. I stayed another 3.5 years, and I burned out so hard the second time. I wasn't just putting on the wings and going everywhere, like all over the place, all over the country. I was also doing charity support efforts. I was doing donation drives for the homeless. I was doing donation drives for various charity uh, places. I would take the donations myself that I would collect, load up my car, and drive them and film it to make sure people knew I was keeping my word and taking stuff so they would see that I was doing it and not just that, but to back up actions with my poster messages, like kindness in action, and I was showing it. But the problem that I ran into was I'm only human. I have this 5'4" body, and I'm going out here. I was so active, and I honestly, like, I had some support, but not a lot of support like I thought I would have. LA seemed kind of like a shallowish. It's hard to describe. The place needs a lot of love, man. There's not much love in LA, and I just got burned out from overgiving and overexerting myself, and I had to leave again. And actually, I'm kind of glad I got out of there before this pandemic because it seems like it's worse there. But I took off 2018. I left Hollywood, burned out, and I went off near Portland, Oregon. I lived there for a year, and I thought it was going to be like a healing retreat for me, but
Mm.
it actually turned out to be almost the opposite. I kind of fell into a depression. I was like so far away from everybody and everything. And they actually suffer from seasonal depression in that area because of the weather. It's like
Right.
hot, it's rainy and cold and just terrible, cloudy and stormy most of the year. And I was like, I need to get out of here. To go from LA to Portland is weather shock. So
Yeah.
I had to just ended up packing up and I moved home to Texas. So that's kind of been my weird journey. Started in LA, Hollywood, went to Portland or Texas, Portland, and then back to Texas. I've just been kind of all over the place. I've moved 7 or 8 times since 2012,
Wow.
interstates, and it was a lot. And I finally just moved home because I was like, I need some stability or some resemblance of stability in my life, but it's been funny because I've still been traveling a lot. I've gone all over the place and I wear the wings and I just keep the mission going, doing the best I can to keep it going. So
I so respect you for that, and for just when you were telling the story about getting the donations, buying the food, filming it so you knew the people's money was really going to what you said it was going to. I really appreciate your integrity in there. It's beautiful, really, really
thank you.
beautiful. I want to bring up something that we also have in common, and by the way, we didn't discuss really everything we're going to talk about, and I hope you don't mind my bringing this up because it's tender for us both. But we both have something else in common, which is the early death of someone we loved and were very close to. And for me, it was my wife, Suchi, who passed away in the bed right behind me here. And for you, it was your sister. And I didn't run this by whether we could talk about this or not, but it just really came to me right now because I'm imagining that a lot of the beautiful work you do is because you recognize how precious life is. And losing your sister was, of course, such a big event. And it's like, give as much love to the world as I can while I'm here. And I just imagine almost your sister coming through you, like the best of your sister coming through you when you're in your street angel experience. Because I know that the best of Suchi, and Suchi was far more evolved than me. I would never have admitted to that when she was alive, but now I can admit it. I feel her coming through me too sometimes. There'll be times that I'll be working with a couple and I won't know what to say, and I can hear Suchi whispering in my ear where to go with the conversation, where to focus it. So I'm just curious how you relate to that, and I hope you don't mind my bringing this up, Mandy.
Well, I definitely got emotional you bringing it up. It's been hard. My sister had a very troubled life and passed, and I just did my best to love her and be. She was my experience with unconditional love. When she was born, I remember we were 6.5 years apart, so I was the older one, and I just remember I was a little kid, and they put her in my lap. And her little bald baby infant head, I was kind of petting it in my
I'm
lap,
petting
and
it.
I just felt like that was my first realization of love at that age. And I always wanted to protect her and keep her safe. And so much bad stuff happened to her, and I could never figure out why. And it bothered me when I couldn't keep her safe. And when she died, it was a very traumatic weekend. It was like a massive disaster. I mean, I was neck deep in that mess that whole weekend. People have no idea the details, but I don't even know how much I should share. But it was like I was trying to rescue her out of this really toxic, abusive relationship, and within a span of couple days, he beat the crap out of her. She had bruises everywhere and a handprint on her neck, and she totaled her car while she was staying with me when I tried to get her out of it. And she went to just try to go to the convenience store and flipped her car off an embankment. And this was all so in the same weekend that she died. So I'm sitting there trying to rescue her from this relationship. She totals her car, gets in her accident. She had all extra bruises from that, and I'm sitting there trying to deal with this, and uh, then she died. And they think it's suicide, but there's a tiny percent. Even the homicide detective wasn't sure, and I just never feel settled about the day looking back on it. There's a lot of problems I have with it, and I don't know if I'll ever get answers. And it's such a discombobulated story, and the way it happened, and I feel like I still don't have a lot of closure. And my sister doesn't really talk to me much in my dreams or in my sleep, and I don't know what to make of that. I've prayed for it, I've asked for it, but it's still very painful to talk about losing her. And if it wasn't for my boyfriend, my Israel, I met him a month before she died.
Mm.
If it wasn't for him entering my life, the divine timing, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know if I would have survived that, because it was so traumatic. And he helped support me so that I could be there for my family. I had to be the anchor and rock for my family. I planned the whole funeral. I had to do everything because my parents were barely operable. They were so emotional.
Of course, of course.
So it was very hard. And as far as love goes, some people are very tough to understand. Some people are tough to love. Some people you can't help no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. Some people you can't rescue, even if you try, and that can be really hard to live with. But unconditional love is such a beautiful experience of a gift, because even though my sister had all these traits and quirks and habits and a very hard life that it was hard for me to understand, we had this unconditional love. And it teaches you things, traits, even trust. This is going to be a contentious topic for some people, but trust is a conditional love, a condition of conditional love. You don't have to necessarily trust somebody in order to love them, and I learned that with her. So there's a lot of things that we, as humans, we put conditions on loving people, and especially parents. Sometimes I think they love their children unconditionally, but they put these conditions on their children. Oh, I don't know if I can love you if you're gay, or I don't know if I can love you if you're not making A's in school. And people can feel like they aren't loved enough, and that's very triggering. And we learn in our childhood that we're not lovable for this and this and this and this reason. And then we might encounter schoolmates that criticize us or bully us, or even siblings or other people that make us feel like we're not worthy of love or something's wrong with us. And so we start struggling with self-love and confidence in our childhood, and it carries over into adulthood. And and then we all are damaged adults, and we're trying to just operate within our wounds. And I've really become aware of that as an adult, and I try to work on healing, but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's not easy living life and being a human.
I'm so appreciating everything you just shared. And it's true, again, the meaning of life. We're here to learn about love. And you learned challenging lessons about loving your sister, even though you couldn't save her, right? That's a big one. This first experience of love at age 6, when you were petting this little being and you fell in love and you couldn't save her. And that's a big life lesson. Yeah? And it's a powerful one. And I just so appreciate how courageous you are, Mandy, with going out, learning your lessons of love. I also wanted to say something, because obviously I did a lot of study about near-death experiences. Obviously, it's a great mystery, and I don't pretend to be an expert, but I've interviewed at least 100 people who have had near-death experiences or are experts in the field. And what happens when we die is just as varied as what happens when we live. Think about, there's 8 billion people on this planet. Look at how different all of our lives are. How different your life is from mine, or from that woman in China, or the person watching right now. We lead very different lives. And it's similar in terms of death. When we die, very different things can happen. When I was young, when I was 23, my father died. He's my best friend. I walked him through his death. And he came and visited me a lot. I had many, many lucid dream experiences.
How old
So
were you again?
23. I was 23. Okay. I had a couple of other friends who died. Some of them, nothing. Others, I had experiences. So when my mother was dying, and my mother and I were very, very, very close. And I lived with her the last 6 weeks of her life. We talked about it. I said, hey, Mom, come visit me. And she knew all my stories about Dad coming to visit me. Nothing. I've had no experience of my mother since she died, which is 10 years now. None. Zero. And she promised, and we talked about it, and she loved me and I loved her. Nothing. I've had no experience of her. My wife and I talked about this. If one of us dies early, let's come visit each other. It took 1.5 years before I had that lucid dream experience. I had other experiences that seemed to be messages from her. And psychics picked her up. But I didn't have that lucid dream experience for 1.5 years. And I wanted it every day. And I had to wait 1.5 years before it came. So, as best as I understand it, time is very different on the other side. Call it heaven or call it the astral plane. Some beings, especially beings that had troubled lives, from what I understand, they sleep. They go into a period of deep rest. Just because they need time to disconnect from the life. When some people, again, I'm not saying this is true, this is what the experts say. The reason we have ghosts are people who died suddenly and stayed attached to the earth plane. So sometimes it's best for somebody who dies suddenly or tragically to just sleep and rest, and their soul disconnects from the memory of the human existence enough so that then when they wake up, they're not so identified with a body that's gone and a human experience that's over.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if I were her, I'd understand why I might need some time to rest.
Some time, yeah. And there is no time there, but obviously there's the illusion and experience of time here. So, and I'm just going to go out on a limb. I do intuitively believe you will absolutely have an experience with her, but after she's rested and after she's come back to center and it's safe for her to even look at this difficult human life that she had.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. The sun just went down. I got to move my drapes. I'm not leaving.
Okay.
I'll be back in 10 seconds.
No problem. So while Scott stepped away, I think I would just like to say that I've created a CD, and it's an epic healing CD. It's almost like a hypnotherapy experience. It walks you into a deep meditative state, and it helps you release old traumas and old wounding. I've taken some people into workshops to this healing meditation and sound bath experience, and some of the feedback I've got was one person said they felt like they healed from all their childhood trauma, and so it's like it could help you if you're interested in this deeply healing meditation CD. If you're a wounded person who's interested in self-healing, this is something you can do privately as long as you have a CD player somewhere. Just go somewhere quiet and listen to this CD, and it will help you clear up so much stuff and allow light and spirit in to heal you. You can order it on my website, thestreetangel.com. There's a tab for my CD, or just find a way to contact me, and I'll make sure I get you an order sent out to you. So I'll bring Scott back into the room now.
Thank you. Just had to open the drapes. The moment that sun goes on, when the sun's up, it's like right on my face. When it goes down, it goes dark quickly.
Cool.
So I wanted to ask you a question. It's funny when we were talking about doing this. She really wanted to interview me, and I really wanted to interview her. It was like, well, no, Scott, you're the head of Love Coach Academy. You're a star. And I was like, no, 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 but it's your show. You're a star. So we agreed we'd kind of go back and forth 50-50.
I thought it was a great idea. So
yeah, it's working out great.
You make a good point, because a lot of people who might see this season 4 may have not heard my story or know what the heck I'm doing or who is the street angel, and so you make a good point to, since it's a new platform streaming live to all these different pages of followers, to kind of talk about that. So where did you want to go next? You want me to ask you a question? Or
no, I've got a question for you.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'd love for you to share with us a story of transformation. Someone that was maybe in a dark place that met the street angel and maybe resisted, pushed you away, maybe even made fun of you, put you down, and you hung in there with them, and they transformed and they received the medicine of your kindness. I'm guessing that's got to have happened a few times. And I'm just guessing, but is there a story like that comes up for you?
Not one where a person starts out kind of like mean, and I mean, there's kind of a lady that before I was the street angel she was a receptionist at a place I worked at, and she was a very mean, snarly person. And there was this one time we had this huge staff meeting in this separate room, and we were having all this food and cake, and she was sitting out there in her receptionist desk all by herself, like she had to run the place while we had this huge staff meeting. And my heart went out to her, and I felt like she was left out. And I went and I cut her a nice piece of cake, and I brought it to her, and I said, here, I feel like, would you like some cake? And that relationship shifted so much from, like, it was just me being myself and being nice and offering like a bit of kindness, but she completely changed how she was. Like, she was nice and sweet and kind to me. And then we stayed friends for years, and she supported me when I went back to school, and I was in esthetician spa school. She came and saw me and paid for facials to help me get my credits. And it was just amazing how that relationship transformed from a little simple act of recognizing her and offering a kindness. But as far as the Angel Project goes, there was a really memorable time where I was in Venice, California, and I was going to this event, and it was at an old church, but it wasn't a church function. The building was a church. And I had my all white angel outfit and my big ass wings and a big poster. I don't even remember which one it was at the time. I had so many. But I start walking down the street in the middle of Venice, and this guy is riding his bike, and he sees me, and he crankshafts his bike around, and he throws it down, and he comes over, and he's like, oh my God, and he hugs me, and he's like, that's exactly the message I needed to see right now. Like, I'm going through this transition, and I'm leaving my partner, and I'm losing my job, and he spewed all this epic stuff to me, and he's like, that's the message I needed to see. And he took his wallet out, he pulls a $20 bill, and he stuffs it in my hand, and he hugs me again, and he took off. And I'm like, well, that was interesting. It was such a cool moment for both of us, because I felt like it was like just like one of those immediate karma moments where I was like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm helping people. I'm helping strangers. So I don't know who he was. I never got his name. I don't know how he's doing, but in that moment, I was the right thing at the right time with the right message. So,
that's beautiful.
I feel like I never know who I've affected or what I've done. But on the negative side of things, while I was running around Hollywood for so many years, I felt the energy shift. I felt the pressure coming down. The fame was going up. The attention I was getting to be too much. And I felt, and this is going to be a little weird for some people, but I felt like I was put under spiritual attack. I was getting attacked by entities in my sleep. I was getting weird dark things happening to me. I was starting to attract some stuff I can't explain. There's a lot of dark stuff in Hollywood. There's souls that failed. There's people who died. There's people that slipped into bad things and sold their soul for fame. There's a lot of bad things in Hollywood. And there were some events I would go to, and I could feel the evil in the room. And I wasn't sure where it was coming from, but I felt it in my bones. And I was like, ugh, I don't know what this feeling is, but I don't feel safe and I don't feel right. And so my mode of operation in Hollywood became when it would get to be around midnight, I would literally sneak out of events and disappear. I wouldn't tell many people goodbye, I'm leaving. I just would kind of slip out, and that was my safety net for myself, and make sure I wouldn't drink too much and get myself safely home, because to be honest with you, Hollywood is not a very safe place, and especially not for single women. There are a lot of predators, there's a lot of wolves in sheep clothing, and it can be a scary place. And I feel like it was divine intervention and angelic support that I got through that scene, like I did. And the places I went to and the people I met, it was very interesting experience. But it was also the highlight of my angel project, just the fact that I got to go fly through Hollywood and get on red carpets, just following a mission. I had no idea where it was going to lead me. I didn't know I was going to be running into celebrities and getting to do talk shows. Like, I didn't know. It just happened. And it was really a blessing to my life, and it added a lot of... I felt like my life had real, serious purpose.
Yeah.
And to be on this mission, but it was also very hard and very challenging energetically. I'm a very sensitive, empathic person, and some of the energies just beat me up. I might look fine on the outside, but on the inside, I was like a mess. And that's why I had to leave sometimes, or escape, or rest, or sleep, or get healing. And I'm a big proponent of people, go get healing if you feel like you need it. Get counseling, get healing, get coaching, get Reiki, whatever. Just go do it. We have to do it to release things that we collect in life. It's hard, right?
Absolutely. I want to say one thing about that. I mean, first of all, you are a very sensitive being. I've gotten to know you very well. She's a big part of Love Coach Academy. She just graduated from my mentorship program, and I've had the honor to coach her and her wonderful boyfriend, whom I love. I love Israel. He's a beautiful man. And I've gotten to know how sensitive you are. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so impressed with her, because to be that empathic, that sensitive, and to put on your angel wings and go to a baseball stadium with 50,000 people, wow.
That's just one of the places. I mean,
of course,
all over.
I use that as an example. I mean, I've seen you on street, street corners, highway. I mean, you name it, you've gone there, and that takes a tremendous amount of courage for anybody. I mean, I'm a tall white man. I wouldn't go out with angel wings on, but you're a little 5'4", highly sensitive, highly empathic woman. So it's incredible what you do. I want to say one other thing, that just while you talked about Hollywood and evil, I'm not going to go to the whole story because that's a whole story. But when I was kind of at the peak of my success in Hollywood, kind of a hotshot Emmy Award-winning producer, I won 3 Emmys by the time I was 27. I met a man who was a pretty famous actor, not super famous, like not Sean Connery, Paul Newman level, although I actually met both of those guys, but a solid working actor who had some pretty significant success. And he believed that he had sold his soul to the devil in order to be successful and to be beautiful. He was very physically attractive. And I became his spiritual guide through death. He ended up dying of AIDS. And it was before they even called it AIDS. It was back when they were calling it the gay cancer. He was
wow.
bisexual, and he had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and believed that he had sold his soul to the devil for the success and fame he had.
Wow.
And so it's interesting. I don't think I've ever told this story publicly, but since you brought it up, what it taught me was that he was not evil, but he had bought into the illusion or the idea that he was evil.
Interesting.
And so, as a street angel, as a love coach, sometimes people believe that they are evil or bad, and ideally, we can help them to remember who they truly are, to remember the divinity within all. Within all.
Right.
He was a lost soul. He was not evil. He was a lost soul. And so, God bless you where you are.
I feel like we could have a whole nother show about that. Like,
let's do that. Let's do it, because that's a topic. But to tell that story would take some time. But yeah.
That's something I struggle with is the evil in the world. I mean, there's, serial killers and people that harm children, and I don't like that kind of stuff.
No,
I don't understand it.
It's horrific. And I taught in the prison system for a long time. I met a lot of people, and I looked into a lot of people's eyes. And I even looked into the eyes of my friend who I was talking about when he was under the influence of the devil, according to him. And I still was able to see divinity. That doesn't mean we condone horrific actions, but let's think about you and I. You and I, in our life, we've never harmed a child, or we've harmed people we love. We've said things we regret. We've done things that we have remorse around. We're not evil. In that moment, we were abducted by our reptile brain. And the truth is, any of us, no matter how spiritual we are capable of pulling a trigger. We're all capable of, in protecting ourselves or in a moment of fear, of pulling the trigger, whether it's pulling the trigger on words that we say, or God forbid, if we have a gun in the house, pulling the trigger on the gun. It's not because we're bad or evil, it's because we were scared, we were lost, we were confused, and we made a tragic choice. So I'll kind of leave it at that.
Well, we have surpassed our 1 hour mark. I would like to kind of start wrapping it up, but I have
let's wrap up. I've got dinner waiting for me, steak waiting for me.
I would like to thank Scott. Thank you for being my first show to launch season 4, and for offering to interview me as well. That was fun, a great idea. I would like to say next week, if you would like to watch Sunday. What is next Sunday? The 19th?
Sunday is the 19th. Yep.
Sunday the 19th. So 9:30 p.m. Central Time or 7:30 p.m. Pacific, and that's 10:30 Eastern, right?
That's correct.
Live streaming again. My next show is going to be, I'm going to teach a workshop on the yellow light, red light tool in relationships, how to use it, and how to apply love during the yellow light times, and then how to self-care and take care of yourself during, if you're taking space from your partner, things to do, and like a checklist, things you can help yourself heal while you get back into a space before reconnecting with your partner. So that's going to be a live workshop next week, and I will be co-hosting with my partner, Israel. And so that's episode 2, if you'd like to tune in and watch that. It's going to be very helpful for your relationships. And I'd also like to put it out there, if you would like to be a sponsor for this show, if you would like to donate any kind of money, I'll give you a shout out. I could promote your product as long as it's in alignment with my mission or helping humanity. To keep my mission going, my talk show going, or if you'd like to just make a donation because you felt like this content helped your life and you just want to express gratitude as an energy exchange, I would be very grateful for any help from the world, for audience. And the last thing is, fell on the floor. I designed my own angel card deck. Let me see. I'm going to remove you, Scott, just for 1 second.
No problem.
Can you see it? So it's an angel guidance, angel relationship guidance cards. You can pre-order them, but these are not tarot. They're not oracle cards. They're actual relationship guidance cards with epic questions to ask yourself or your partner to help you figure out you to navigate your relationship. So that is that. If you'd like to pre-order the angel guidance cards, hit me up. And I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Any last words?
Everybody,
Scott?
just support the Street Angel. I'll be watching. And I'm really glad you're doing yellow light, red light next week. It's such a great practice. And thank you, Mandy, for being who you are. Thank you, Israel, for being a beautiful soul. And God bless you both. And I'm going to be doing a lot to support this show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And share it. Put this on your timeline. Share it with your friends. Let's get everybody knowing all about the Street Angel, okay?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching this show. If you made it all the way through, we love you. And check out our website, thestreetangel.com.
And if you came in late, go back and watch the beginning.
Yes, go watch it all. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night, Scott.
Good night. Take care.
Bye. Bye, everybody.